Oh, hi. I didn't know I pressed go. Hey, it's Karla, and I wanted to pop in here. I've just been really listening. It's been sweet. It's only Tuesday, and I've received a lot of feedback in the last 3 days, starting Sunday, from clients I've been working with this month, who are just sharing the tips and tools and practices that are really life-giving to them right now. And some of these have come from the Root Rise Thrive program, which is my favorite way to just sort of look at all of the ways, the ancient wisdom and the energetics and yoga and just the gift of being you in the world, how they can come together to nourish and receive from nature. And then also some of my hands-on healing, hands-on sessions. So I wanted to share this with you because these are the three things that have come back the most frequently. And when we're in the holiday season, it can happen anytime, right? But especially now, we have just a number of factors contributing to what some people can feel like overwhelm. The environment, right? In most places that we are, although it's kind of warmer and balmier today, the elements in the air in nature are colder and drier, and we're kind of moving into winter. There's the invitation as we move to solstice. I've been talking about that, where it's really calling us to root down. And so this is my first practice I'd like to share with you, or just tip. Eat seasonally, okay? Look around, and what's feeding us, what has been feeding us through the autumn harvest are the root vegetables. And they are carrying the nutrients to help us root down when we might start to feel those elements of more of the air and ether, the wind elements of winter, the dry and the cold. So you can, one of my favorite ways to do this is just make a huge pan. I did this over the weekend, of root vegetables. You get to choose what ones are in there. I think I had sweet potatoes, carrots, rutabaga, turnips, some garlic and onion, and I love herbs, so I had a lot of thyme in there, and I had some parsley that was still growing in our garden, and a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm forgetting there's something else I threw in there. Rosemary from the garden. And just let that roast in the oven. I peel and chop them mostly. Sometimes I might just take whole beets and roast them and put them in the oven and eat those later. I might take whole sweet potatoes and do that later. You can do this with any root, and it's really easy. Just Google. But when you're eating these root vegetables, they really are having the sense they're heavier. They grow in the earth, so they're having the sense of helping you root down. So if you're feeling anxiety, anxiousness, overwhelm, they can help you root down. Okay, that's one. The next one is just something I love, because you've likely, if you've been around here or you've scrolled at all, you've found I've shared a couple times the video on self-massage with oil. And this is an ancient wisdom, ancient Ayurveda practice that can be so powerful. It's called Abhyanga. And the word in Sanskrit for oil also means love. Pretty cool, huh? So I like to say, like, we get to take our own healing hands, these very dynamic hands, and take oil, which is love, and we start to put it on our bodies. I like to do this before. I won't tell you the whole practice here because I have videos on that on YouTube and here in this group. If you've missed it, let me know and I'll post it again. But the tip for this in the winter and the holidays, which I've been doing, and then we recently went through our week in the Root Rise Thrive program was really looking at sense organ care and how we care for the senses. And this has been something that's been really near and dear to me and my practices for my whole family, because when my two youngest girls came home from Ethiopia, I was really I was just dove deep into trauma research, and I've gone through trauma-informed parenting courses and read a ton and trained and took workshops in different areas. And it's such a powerful practice to help calm the nervous system, all right? And when we take the oil that we're using and you warm it up, especially in the winter, now you're just putting on an even greater layer of yumminess, of warmth, of care, of nurture. And so if you are in a very cold climate, this might be something you want to try. If you're going through some really stressful times, this may be something you want to try. I don't know how many days now, a week or more, I kind of had to face some decisions, and I was just sort of like, I don't want to work with this right now. And I actually just like, when sometimes we feel like we want to run away from it, or we just want to take charge and force it, I just knew I had to like fall back into some practices. So I started heating up my oil and taking a little bit longer time with my self-massage. I started sitting on the mat a little bit longer and going for walks in nature. Sitting on the mat and walks in nature are not two of the ones that I was going to share today, but they want to come out. So there they are. But also the third one I want to talk about. Okay, so if you want the video on the self-massage with oil and you have not seen it yet, let me know and I'll repost it. It's in here. It's also on YouTube under body practices, I believe. And that's just really powerful. Oh, the way I heat it up. There are many ways you can heat it up. I used to have a glass jar, mason jar, and I would put that mason jar in some warm water that I heated on the kettle. Like a lot of times I'm doing this in the morning. And so when I'm heating the kettle, I'm getting everything kind of set, and then I pour my own water, and then I'm pouring extra water into like a Pyrex measuring cup, and then I would put that tiny mason jar in there and it would warm. I know this may sound like a big added step, and if it feels too much, don't do it, but I'm telling you, it's a beautiful, beautiful addition to this practice. And then later my kids just ended up, because they do this practice too, and they were breaking so many jars that I do use plastic. Okay. I have like a trial size bottle that I just kind of keep refilling with my oil, and then I will put that into not boiling water, but like I might take a cup, here's my teacup, but I might take a cup and put that in there. And honestly, by the time I'm kind of undressed and ready for a shower at some point, the water's or the oil's warm, and then I put that on. It can be short, it can be brief, it can be before your shower or bath or after. At least once a week, especially this time of year, actually almost this whole year, because we've got a lot going on. I'm usually trying to take a little bit more time, at least one day a week or every other week. And it's just lovely. I might listen to silence, listen to a podcast, put on cool music, do something. And then the third main one I wanted to mention today was, I'm going to take my glasses off for this. I am in yet another course that's just helping me explore trauma and different practices. I do this for myself. I do this for my clients, because a lot of women who come to me end up having just a lot of experiences in life, maybe that they haven't really seen as traumatic, but they're really holding them back, these memories. And I think part of that is sometimes because we like to compare our traumas, and we think that, well, it shouldn't stop me in my track, or I should be over this, or why is this bothering me? And sometimes it's big stuff, like if you're in the trauma world, they talk about big T's and little T's, and I still think that too. We all have experienced trauma at some point, and we all will. And these are what I call life-disrupting events, right? Life-disrupting moments. And if we don't actually, from the Ayurvedic perspective, let them digest and move through. I'm not going to go into it too much now. Maybe this is a whole nother talk, but one of the things that I talked about in the Root Rise Thrive program today is that animals really don't store trauma. Like, think about animals. There are a lot of videos and things that we can watch on the nature of an animal who shakes everything off after, they have just escaped near death or the predator or something like that. They will shake it all off, and then kind of they'll rest, and they'll start moving back into a state of regulation. All right. We often have not been taught how to move that stuff through. And so sometimes if we start to work with it, we stay in one space, or sometimes we have just distanced it and said, that's not a big deal. I should be over that. Let's move on. And there's all, I'm definitely simplifying it here. But in general, a lot of the clients who come to me, we just sort of realize there's some things that just have been holding on in the body, and it's time to let them go. So when we are anxiety, overwhelm, just trauma, a lot of these things can just have us feeling like we're out of our body, right? Stress can pull us out of our body. I've been doing these series on the practice of presence, which is really about coming to the breath and coming into the body, because we can begin to feel like when we're in the body, we're more present. And things become clear, and possibilities we didn't see before might become clear to us, and choices and the way we can interact with and care for ourselves and for other people just expands. And that's what all of the practices in Root Rise Thrive are about, and all the practices of Ayurveda and even yoga as a practice. Or for me personally, Access Bars is also another practice to or therapy to get into the body and to be totally present, and to see, what is seeking space, attention, witness, facilitation. So this is from, there's a couple different ways you can do this, but one is just to hold your head. And you can do this for however long you want, but often just a few breaths can work really well. Then sometimes I do this, and I'll release the hand on the back of my head. You can start you don't have to do all these in the sequence, but one hand on my forehead and one hand here. This is actually my favorite, most preferred space that I go to. If I'm feeling kind of like I'm not being myself, or I'm a little bit overwhelmed or feeling not so clear. Right here high, and this hand on the forehead, a few breaths. This is something that I picked up from Peter Levine, who wrote Taming the Tiger. That was a book that just kind of kept calling me when I was doing my yoga practice, my yoga teacher training, and parenting young children after adoption. And then this hand I usually drop down just below the rib cage. This is known as the solar plexus area, just above the navel. And if you want, and your hand just naturally wants to move someplace else, you just let it slide. Maybe it wants to go further down toward the pelvic bowl. That's fine too. And take a couple breaths. And just notice what's coming up. Just notice what you notice. And remind yourself, you're not your circumstance, you're not your emotions. And I know sometimes it feels really difficult, but allow yourself to come to the breath, allow yourself to come into the body, come to this moment now, and use your own healing hands once again to connect with this body. And sometimes I'm even telling myself, everything is okay just as it is. Because usually when I feel myself kind of moving out of that space, I'm reacting and resisting to something. Or sometimes I'm just trying to fit into somebody else's box, or I'm trying to align and agree with something that isn't true for me, and that also takes me out. So I'm coming back to what is true for me, what is light for me, what do I know, and I can only do that from a space where I am in my body. So maybe one of those will be a contribution to you or someone else. If it is, or anybody else who might benefit just from some tips in this group, or is looking for just a community to be. Thank you for being here. So warm your oil, that's an option. Eat your root vegetables, yummy yum. You can also do that in the form of a stew. I like to just roast them in the oven, but you can eat them in a stew. So many amazing things we can do with our Instant Pots and slow cookers these days. And then the hands-on. And anything else, post below if anything of this contributes to you, or you have other favorites, drinking warm beverages, going outside, going for a walk, meditation. There's a million ways, right? But these are the ones that have been coming back from my clients this week, that they've been saying this is really gifting to them right now in this season. So go out into the world, be more of you, nurture you, nurture you, nurture you. Because the more you nurture yourself and the more you are present in your body, the more you are able to show up for the rest of the bodies in your world. So thanks so much. See you soon.